We're very fortunate to get to the Taco Casa hotline and bring in a good friend of Dad and I's, Rece Davis. Good morning, Rece. How are you, sir?
Morning, Rece. I'm doing great. How are you guys today?
I figured you might be Zoom bombing Coach Saban's 7:30 staff meeting this morning, Rece.
I was thinking there and see if I can get in. I've had to learn the ins and outs of Zoom over the last couple of weeks for sure. But the Zoom bombing part, I ought to pop in there and give them a few pointers on how to play some coverage.
Oh, yeah.
We'd appreciate that.
You shouldn't say, Coach Malzahn's about to pop in here too, Coach. Should I tell him anything?
That's right. Hey, Nick, you guys hold off. I've got Gus and Coach O here if you guys will stand by a minute.
Yeah, Dad, go ahead.
Rece, because your son was a good baseball player, still is, and the things have changed, and maybe giving him a year of eligibility, extending it. Your youngster may be through by now. I can't remember, but tell our listeners your feeling on that, and will that work?
Well, obviously, from our standpoint, it's going to work. It's going to be, a good opportunity for him. Certainly disappointing to lose what was his final season at Princeton, but they don't allow graduate students to play. So after he graduates this year, he'll move on, and it looks like right now, according to some people, that he's still going to have, because of his various injuries and the pandemic, that he may have 2 years of eligibility. I think we know he's got one, so he perhaps will have two. So we'll see how that goes.
Right.
So, but at any rate, I think it's the right thing to do, Coach. I understand some of the financial challenges with it, but in some of the spring sports, the schools will have the option themselves as to whether they want to increase the financial aid. I know of some schools that are keeping, they can expand their roster spots, but they aren't necessarily able to expand their financial aid. It's just, I think my understanding is that would vary school to school. Most of the spring sport kids, a lot of them pay their own way anyway, or at least a good portion of it. So it's not like football and basketball where virtually every kid who plays is on a full ride. So
well, I think it's
going to be. I'll tell you one thing. I think it's going to do that combined, just as it pertains to baseball. That combined with the smaller draft this year from MLB, it's going to make college baseball elite next year. So that'll be exciting, because I know it's certainly popular in the SEC. It's popular in the conference that we're likely to go to also, so we're looking forward to it. So.
Yeah, I think JUCO baseball will thrive, too. The baseball all around will be really, really good at the amateur level. Rece, we've had several coaches come out. We always complain that coaches are vanilla. They don't ever speak their heart. And some of them come out and they've spoken their heart, and they've gotten crushed over it. Maybe not Dabo didn't get crushed, but he got criticized. Gundy got criticized. Coach Saban had a press conference, talked about the Apple Watches. People turning him into the NCAA. Is this fair to what's happened to these coaches when they come out? They try to just speak their opinion, what they want to happen, and then next thing you know, people are writing negative articles about them.
Well, I think, Barry, I would put it this way. When you are in a position like that, it is incumbent on you to be precise and to be artful when you say something. And I think that there have been some cases where that hasn't been done. I don't think Dabo took a misstep. All Dabo said is that he was hopeful and optimistic, and kind of gave a pep talk. And none of these coaches, I thought Mike Gundy really got out of sorts. I mean, he started talking about players being responsible for the economy and all that, which he delved into some territory. And I like Mike, but he delved into some territory that really left him vulnerable for criticism that was well deserved. And and I think the thing that what I've tried to do when I've offered an opinion on this or a judgment of how things are going, you need to offer the caveat that you're not an epidemiologist, you're not a medical professional. And the good news is, as much as I love and respect coaches, football coaches aren't going to make this decision, and they're going to be hardly involved in it at all. I understand when people criticize and say, they have an impact on the way the public thinks, and that's true to a degree, but I give people a lot of credit for being pretty smart. And they know that Dabo and Mike Gundy or whoever else, they know they all want Brian Kelly. They know they want to play the season. They know Kirk Herbstreit wants to play the season. Everybody does. Everybody wants the season to be played. But, you have to exercise a level of caution no matter how badly, Dabo or Brian Kelly or somebody wants to play the season. They're not going to have any input whatsoever on that decision. And neither am I, by the way. Neither are broadcasters. So it's okay to have a judgment. It's okay to be hopeful and optimistic, which I am. I'm hopeful that we can find some type of treatment or something, happens within the forces of nature that slows this thing down and lets us get back to a more normal way of life. I'm certainly hopeful and optimistic that can happen. But at the same time, we have to rely on what the experts say here. And football coaches are experts in many things, but this is not one of them. So they won't be making that decision.
Sure, that.
In the near future, one of these days, when all this is settled, there's going to be a petition to pay players for their likeness. I've listened to what Jay Billis has said, and I don't agree with all of it. He's a lot smarter than I am, as you know. But I think recruiting, it's dangerous. I think it's dangerous if the automobile agency will give that right tackle a bunch of publicity and pay him a bunch of money for saying he likes that particular automobile. And I may be wrong about that, but to me, it's a scary. I don't know that you'll have an answer. You may have your own feelings. I just don't think that, that I don't know the answer to it. But I said something about the right tackle wouldn't get near as much as a quarterback would, and they laughed at me on that. Just your comments on that.
Well, I think you and I would probably differ on this a little bit, Coach. I think in my position on it is this, and everything that happens in life, people find a way to cut corners and take advantage of the rules. And I'm not for 1 second saying that if we allow this, that it's going to eliminate all cheating. It's not. I mean, it just won't. We have all kinds of laws, and we've had all kinds of freedoms, and we still have full courtrooms and full jailhouses, and the IRS stays busy and the whole thing. So I understand that's my caveat offering here. But my thing is, I can't get past philosophically that any other student on campus is free to profit if they are popular for some reason, if they establish a great YouTube channel, if they are a prodigy in the music world, they're free to go play a concert or record with an orchestra or a country band or anything else that they're qualified to do. Athletes are the only people on campus that we say, you can play a sport, you can play for Alabama, but you cannot. No matter how popular you are, no matter how many people are in the stands wearing Hawaiian shirts because they love you, you cannot make any money off of that. I can't find a good reason as to why I would oppose that. And in terms of the different positions, you're absolutely right. Tua would get more than the offensive lineman, or a star basketball player would get more than a guy who's a bit of a role player at the end of the bench. But that kind of happens now. It just happens in different currency. It happens with attention. It happens with interviews. It happens with feature stories. It happens with social currency at parties. And I think people learn to adjust and adapt and deal with it pretty well. I mean, even in our line of work, we don't all make the same salary, and everybody learns to live with that. And so, I think the time has come to open the door on that, and I think there's a way to establish some guardrails that will maybe limit some of the things that I think that you are rightly worried about, like promising a 17-year-old who hasn't done anything a whole bunch of money. But I also think the market will correct that over a while, because if the car dealer promises the five-star tackle coming out of high school some big deal, and he's obligated to pay him, and there's a legitimate contract, and I think that's really important. It needs to be a legitimate business deal done between the individual and whoever is paying him. But it won't take long for him to decide, well, I'm going to get the jump, and I'm going to pay, $500,000 to this five-star who they say is going to be in school for 3 years and be a top 3 pick in the draft, and all of a sudden he doesn't pan out. then they're going to wait a little bit and see what value the player actually has. Because I don't know of many people who are eager to just give away money for nothing. And I think if you have, it wouldn't take long before you would start having some financial discretion exercised by those businesses and those people who might want to get involved in that, to make sure that the people they're paying actually have some value in the marketplace.
We're talking with Rece Davis. Rece, whenever you talk to a coach and it's out of coach, you say, what do you miss? Every guy says, I miss the relationships. Man, I miss the relationships every day in the office with my fellow coaches. And I'm jealous of what you guys have. You're kind of the quarterback of two different groups. You got the Gameday deal there with Pollock and Howard and Corso and Herb Street. You guys got it. And then you got the basketball side up with Jay Billis, Jay Williams, Seth Greenberg. You guys have a ton of fun, don't you? I'd love to be in one of y'all's text groups, just trying to talk about those relationships that you guys have built over the years.
You know, it's really great, Barry, and I do think it is a lot like the team. And those guys have become really good personal friends in many cases, more than just business colleagues. And there's a lot of busting of the chops, so to speak, goes on in those text chains, and nothing is too sacred. And as you guys know Billis pretty well, and not much gets by him that he doesn't have something snarky to say about. And he's a really funny dude. So all of those guys do that, and it's really funny how the relationships and the personalities are different based on the sport. And it's well, guys, basketball coaches will appreciate this. Several years ago, we did this big thing talking about some of the things that Coach was talking about just a minute ago. We called it College Football Blueprint for Change. And it was, I had a big room, and I was hosting it. And in the room, me, Mark May, Nick Saban, Bob Stoops, Urban Meyer, Mike Bellotti, Mark May, Rod Gilmore, Herb Street, several others, all football guys except Billis. Billis was the only non-football guy in the room. And I told him, we were talking ahead of time, because Jay and I are very close friends, and I was saying, look, I know you know a lot of football coaches, but these guys want to control everything. I said, basketball coaches, nature of sport. I know basketball coaches too could be that way, but it's sort of the nature of the sport. There's another game. The season, you're going to play 30 some odd games if things go well for you. You can't always live your life the same way that football coaches do. Wanting to micromanage and control everything. And there were two instances from that meeting. The first one was I was sitting beside Urban, and Urban leaned over to me at one point, and he said, "What's this guy?" Because Jim was making a point about name, image, and likeness, and he said, "What's this guy's name again? Violet?" and I said, "Billis." He goes, "Yeah, right." He goes, "Well, I don't agree with a single thing he says." and he paused for a minute, and he leaned back in, and he goes, "But he sure as hell has a way of making you think he's right." And I said, that's probably Billis in a nutshell. So we finish up shooting the show, and I'm driving home. My phone rings to Jay, and he goes, "Boy, you were right. I didn't believe you." He goes, "These football coaches, they don't want anything to get out from under their fist." It's a good group, and the personalities are certainly different. But I'm very happy and blessed to be a part of both of them.
Tell me the truth now. In y'all's group text, did Herb Street say, "Hey guys, I'm fixing to blow it up. I'm gonna tell them there may not be college football. Let's watch the reaction"?
No. That's not Kirk. That's not Kirk's style at all. In fact, I think the thing is that with that situation, he just answered the question. And the thing is, I've got a little bit of a different view on it, as has been documented. But in essence, it's not really that different, because what I've pointed out in subsequent days is that if Kirk was saying two things that are absolutely true. There's not going to be a vaccine for over a year. That's true. That's just the way this works, according to all the professionals we see. And if things are the same at the end of August, 1st of September, as they are as we sit here in early April, well, then we're not going to be able to do it. Everybody understands that. It's just, he just answered the question from his perspective in that way, and my answer to the question has been, I get that, but look at how much things have changed. And I think Kirk would agree with this too. Things have changed a lot over the last 6 to 8 weeks. I mean, my daughter goes to school at NYU, and 2 months ago they were saying, ride the subways, go to the movies. The city officials, the leaders in the city, go to the Lunar Festival in Chinatown. Everything's fine, And I'm not even faulting them for that. That's what they knew.
Yeah,
that's what they knew at the moment, and things have drastically changed. And I'm hopeful that maybe we can have a positive change over that same period of time, over the next 6 weeks or so. That maybe we can have 4 weeks, whatever it might be. I'm just making up a time frame, but that we'll have a positive change, and maybe that will change our perception of what's possible in terms of playing or not playing.
Yep. The
other thing that bothers me, you'll probably be on Jay's, would feel a little bit different than I do.
You're going to be on Jay's side.
Portal.
I spent like 30 years of my life agreeing with everything you said. So, I mean,
that's right. The transfer portal is, I don't like it, but I think you need to lay out a year. The first thing you're going to say, you may not, I don't know what you're going to say, is that, well, the coaches get to do what they get to do. There are discrepancies there in all things, that some people get to do more. Baseball doesn't get a fair shake against basketball number-wise. Basketball scholarships are 2 less than ladies' basketball scholarships, which I don't like. But I don't know that if all I'm trying to look at and see is it best for me, for my guy to be able to transfer and everybody on the world calling him right now without having to lay out a year, and then I throw back and say, well, the coaches get to do it. I don't know if that's enough or not. And I just think it kind of hurts for the wide out at Alabama to go down to go to LSU as a wide out because he's unhappy with Nick Saban. Comment on that. I may be wrong again, but
I don't. And I'm not even saying I don't think you're wrong with the others. Just different perspectives of it. I would look at it this way. I think a little bit that the problem when people immediately give that knee-jerk reaction and say the coaches are able to do it, I think that's a little bit of a, I hope I'm using my terms correctly, but what did we learn back in college, Barry? It's a red herring argument.
Right.
It's not exactly the same thing, because coaches are overtly engaged in business arrangements with their school. And so I think that's a little bit different. Where I would come down on it is this. I sort of go back to the same thing I said about the name, image, and likeness. If there's an engineering student in Alabama that decides he wants to transfer, he gets to, and nobody says a word. So you're right. I am okay with the transfer portal, but I would say this. Here's what I told my kids when they went to school. One an athlete, one not. I said, almost certainly, and I was fortunate, it didn't happen with either of them, but I thought it might. I said, almost certainly at some point during your first year of school, because of the change, because of the new challenges, different environment, you're probably going to be unhappy. And I said, if you are, I think you should go on through it. I said, but college is not some sentence imposed by the judge that you have to serve. I said, so if we get to the end, I said, all I ask is give me the first full academic year. And if you get there and you go, Dad, I've made a mistake here. This is not what great. We'll look into transfer and we'll find you a different place. Now, fortunately for me, it didn't happen that way for either of my kids. So I would say the same thing for athletes. I think it's very easy for them to get a new environment away from home, tougher competition, tougher coach not as sweet to him as he was when he was recruiting him, all of that kind of stuff, and they want to leave. And I understand that most kids, when they do that, or they're not kids, most young men and women, when they do this, they make a mistake. Not most times, some of the time. I like the idea, and I think Jim Harbaugh has espoused this, one-time transfer, but the caveat I would offer on it is you have to make it through an academic year, just to make sure. Because I think sometimes we also underestimate the bond that players will form with their teammates and with the program. But the fact of the matter is, this is a very short opportunity for these young men and women. Just a few years of their life, and it's something they've worked toward for a very long time, and nobody wants to sit. Now, maybe they'll make it worse. Maybe they would get to play more if they toughed it out and got on through. But other times, maybe the fit's not right. Maybe the coach does see eye to eye. I'll tell you, and Coach, both you guys, with all your experience recruiting, you can tell me this. One of the things back when we were in high school recruiting that we looked for, and I said, you need to find a coach who believes, not just going to hand you anything, but that believes you can develop into an elite player. Because if you go to some guy who just takes you, who thinks you're a good player, good kid, and I'm not talking about the competition aspect. I'm talking about doesn't believe that you will ever do that, no matter how you play. That you'll go out there and you'll have to root for the guy at your position to do badly. Then you get in and you produce, but the first time you go over 4, he's like, I know this other guy has to be better. I'm putting him back in. I know this other guy has to be better. So, okay, the guy that is playing better has missed 2 or 3 shots. I know of a situation in basketball this year where an assistant coach told me they're losing a kid. I'm not going to say the team. They're losing a freshman to the transfer portal. They had 2 freshmen in the same position. One clearly outplayed the other one, but the other one was higher ranked. The coaching staff some of the coaching staff believed that he had more upside, so it didn't matter. Every time they kept giving the other kid, the supposed higher ceiling kid, chance after chance after chance. And, and every time the other one didn't go just right, come out when he'd go back in, he would play better. Well, the kid who played better all year finally said, after the first year this year, he goes, I get it. You guys think he's better. I outplayed him. It didn't matter. I'm gone.
Yeah.
He ought to be able to go. He outplayed him, and it didn't matter. And now, are coaches right about the ceiling on the players most of the time? Probably. Yeah, probably, but not always. And also, I think that player has the right to be able to pursue his career in the way that he wants to.
Yeah, that's good points.
Rece, we appreciate you giving us so much time. Last question. As far as when college football comes back, none of us know. I think we got to all be in agreement, though. We can't bring it back until the fans can come. I mean, you guys, that's a tradition. College game day, trying to get as many fans there as possible prior to the game. I mean, can you imagine a game in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and they say you can't tailgate on the quad? We got to wait till the fans can come back, right? Until they can't. Go ahead. It seems that way, and I would say, Barry, again, to use an example from the recent week, the day that the NCAA tournament shut down, we found out that, an official in the Colonial Athletic Association had officiated a game, unbeknownst to him, but he had officiated a game, and he tested positive for the coronavirus. So that would be the quote-unquote essential personnel. And so I don't know how you can limit it to, a group of essential personnel and still maintain safety. Maybe you can. Again, that's outside my purview. I would hope that we can come to a place where we can have the full, the full experience, because that's an important part of it. It may be that it has to be limited in some way. I don't know the answer to that. It's certainly outside my purview. But the hope would be is that we find a way to be able to do it the way we always have, and the way that's made the sport such a part of the culture. So hopefully we will get to that. But everything has changed so much. I mean, you can look back at history, and I know this has happened in the past in the United States, Spanish flu, and the other ones that maybe perhaps didn't take on this much significance, but we couldn't have conceived it would stop our way of life like this. So I've stopped short of saying that I would be opposed to playing under any circumstances unless we had the whole thing. I think that if that is what we do, then still there can be some positive things that would come out of playing if we are somehow limited in scope in terms of
fans or gatherings or tailgates or whatever it might be.
Well, Rece, we appreciate
Thanks, Rece.
so
appreciate
much.
It very much.
The best thing I got
Always
out
great
of this,
talking to you guys. I appreciate both of
hey,
you.
Rece, the best thing I got out of this interview was that Urban Meyer didn't know who Jay Billis was. So we got something to get on to him next time.
That's been a number of years ago. He knows him well now, but that was for quite a while back. But yeah, I've gotten a lot of mileage out of that story.
Thanks, Rece. Be safe.
All right, see you guys.
All right.